you don't really desire him to be vulnerable and transparent with you. What you desire is to see an emotional reaction. And oftentimes a woman will use the emotion of a man to dismiss him as a leader, right? So that she can walk away. So I've seen this in several instances. I've practiced it. I've made a conscious decision to go against my better judgment in certain situations just to see what would happen. And then I've also done the opposite of that in different scenarios to see what would come back because of that. So in certain scenarios, the way it worked was, let's say, reached an impasse with a woman. She's talking about walking away, or she wants to start an argument, or she's saying some bullshit. And then I'll just be like, I'll try to communicate. And most, like 9.5 or 9 out of 10 times, well, I'll say 8 out of 10 times, if I tried to communicate with a woman where I was coming from and try to compromise her, try to, do those different type of things, it showed that I wanted her more than I wanted things my way, even if I thought that her claims were realistic, right? And it's like, you know what, this is some good stuff. And a lot of times in those instances, a woman would then take that as seeing me in an emotional position, and then she would get more firmer on her masculine stance, and then it would make it easier for her to walk away. But in instances where a woman would come to me with the bullshit, right, and she would try to get me to be emotionally vulnerable or to validate her, or trying to coax or coerce me into giving an emotional reaction, if I didn't give that emotional reaction, chances are a woman would come back around trying to fuck with me, right? And oftentimes I've been in several situations in the past where a woman would try to get an emotional reaction by any means necessary until either I would walk away or until she would get that emotional reaction. So oftentimes a woman will, she'll do it until her cup gets too low. So if a woman's cup isn't too low, how it's going to work is that femininity is going to be lubricated. So that masculinity of stoicism is something that will cause her to feel unsure about walking away from you. So in a lot of those instances, let's say a woman will send me some long ass message trying to say she done fucking with me. I'm like, okay, cool. I just don't respond. A day or two later, hitting my phone up, sending another long ass message about how she's just confused, right? Or sending another long ass message about how she wants to fuck with me. Or if I just bypass and don't care about what she said at all, and I just say, come through, pull up, then she'll be right on her way. Just right on her way, right? So those are just some things to understand about women sometimes that can be confusing for a lot of guys. And a lot of women will try to gaslight men, say that men are invalidating their emotions, when really oftentimes a woman wants a man to validate her emotions so she can get what she wants out of it to see if she still wants to be there. But oftentimes that comes from a place of feeling like, well, I've been giving you my body, so are you going to give me access to your mind? So a woman feels validated by having emotional and mental access to a man, feeling like she has place in his mind. So oftentimes a woman will give up her body as much as she can to try to get access to that, even if she's enjoying herself. But once she starts going through sexual polarity erosion or sexual disintegration, then that's where she's going to get to a place where she's going to try to trip a man up by getting him to give an emotional reaction to her. You get what I'm saying? That's something that can occur. So I've used this in the opposite effect, right? So let's say I was dealing with a woman and, she just wanted to keep dealing with me. But I was like, you know what? We're cool. I'm not trying to mess you up and leave you stuck right here. So it'd be a woman trying to figure me out all the time. So I would just let a woman think that she figured me out so I can get rid of her. And she'll think it's her idea, right? I've done these things on purpose with women before, right? Just so she can see. Like, you really think you're my friend. You really think we're cool. But I'm going to show you that you're not as kind-hearted as you think you are, because I'm going to allow you to think that you've understood me emotionally, that you're seeing my vulnerability, my emotional side, letting you think that you understand me so that you can get what you want and go to fuck on your own, right? So that is one part that could be, interesting. But oftentimes, let's say if you love a woman, then you might start to really think, you know what, maybe she cares about me enough. Maybe she loves me enough so that I can do this and she's not going to, react badly to it. The thing to say about it is like this. It's just like cup theory. You have to set your standard of how much a woman has to pour into your cup before you pour back into hers. And you just have to make sure that she enjoys that process of pouring into your cup. If she enjoys that process, then she's not going to be too worried about it. But once she doesn't enjoy it as much, or once she starts questioning your masculinity or your dominance, then that's when, if those things start to erode, that's when you get to a place where she's going to start bringing those things up. But if her cup gets really, really low, then that's where stoicism won't work either. When a cup is really high for you, or when she's very, very sexually attracted to you, and very, very feminine and submissive with you, then aggression is something that will switch it back around. And I'm not talking about trying to beat a woman's ass. I'm talking about just like doing things that you would do during sex outside of a sexual context in a way that would trigger a sexual desire that would push her into her feminine energy when she starts getting off. Now, not everybody can do that, and that won't work with everybody depending on how they feel about you and where they are in their cup. Once that cup gets too low, first the receptiveness to your dominance goes away, but after a while the receptiveness to your stoicism goes away as well, right? Because then when it gets really low, a woman's not going to be receptive to you not giving her attention, because she no longer respects you enough to desire your validation. So if you're not giving her energy, she's just going to walk away because you're not giving her energy. But in most instances, that's not how a woman's going to work if she desires you and she respects you. Right? So, I'm just going on a rant, talking about these different things, these different factors of it. I think that when it comes to the whole topic of, the Delilah effect, it can work like that sometimes. And a lot of women these days, their mindset is to look at these healthy relationship posts and all these different things and then become prematurely integrated. Some of these things are healthy things. Some of these things are beautiful things, but that's from being on the same page. That's from being at a place of sexual integration, being at a place where you already experience polarity. A lot of these things are going to be short-lived or toxic or unfulfilling relationships, at least for the man and somewhat for the woman as well, especially if she's ever experienced being dominated and enjoyed it. And in a lot of those instances, it'll just get to the place where a woman is just convincing herself that a man validating her emotionally is what his responsibility is if he cares about her or if she's dealing with him. So she'll feel entitled to that even when she's not in a place to where if he does that, she'll still be able to respect him. So it's like a Delilah effect. It's just like Delilah from the Bible. She would be around Samson, right? And she would deal with him, but she would always be trying to pillow talk with Samson and get him to open up about what his weakness was. And it wasn't open up about what his weakness was so that she could help protect it. The Pharisees were already there, the Philistines were already there to try and destroy Samson. And every time Samson told her what his weakness was, whatever he said would happen to him. So one thing and that's something that can happen as well. Like, let's say as a man, I've done that myself, where, a woman will try to see my vulnerability. She'll try to see my weakness. And then I'll just, share her something I used to be insecure about that I'm not insecure about anymore, just to see if she'll bite on it. Because some women, they just have that desire to really just try to get an emotional reaction out of a man, to lose attraction to him so that she could just try to see what makes him tick. She just really wants to see. She just really fucking curious. And when a woman has that state of mind, she's going to try to sabotage you. She's going to try to denigrate your masculinity. Oftentimes, those are feminine dominant. She's attracted to that mental challenge. And that mental challenge is different. See, a feminine submissive woman, she desires leadership. She desires guidance. So her femininity is attracted to strength, but it's attracted to strength from the perspective of the strength to lead, the strength to protect, the strength to guide. But a woman who's feminine dominant, she sees your strength as something that she wants to overcome. And if she can't overcome it, she's going to feel insecure. But that insecurity is going to cause her to desire your validation. So she's going to keep trying to get behind that mask. Keep trying to see who you are beneath the surface. Even if you're presenting it to her directly as who you are, she just wants to see you in your weakness. And if she can't see you in your weakness, eventually she's either going to give up, she's going to get duplicitous, she's going to lie to you, or disrespect you in some type of way, trying to get a response so that she can see that emotion, so that she can say, oh, I got what I wanted, so I can go away. That's similar to like a feminine dominant, to where like, well, as long as I get the fuck, then I can get on with my business. It's like, all right, cool, I'm doing all this shit, I'm talking to her all the time, I'm spending all this time with her, and I'm interested in her, and I just want to fuck. As soon as I get the fuck, then I can go on with my business. And that's how a lot of women are with men's emotions, right? They just want to hit and quit a man's emotions. That's like what the Delilah effect is. Because if a woman walks away from you and she doesn't already have a sure thing on the other side of it, she's going to be in a position to where when she walks away, she's going to feel unsure, right? And if she walks away and you're still in a position of strength, she's going to feel unsure about her decision, and she's going to come back because she sees you're still the strongest thing that's around. But if she can get you to move off of your square, to compromise, to bend, to take a feminine stance of trying to be overly understanding with her, of trying to take a stance to where you're showing emotion and being feminine, then when she walks away, then she can look back and say, okay, cool, he's feminine, he's not qualified to lead, he's emotional, so then she can walk away without looking back. So oftentimes a woman will do whatever she has to do to get that kind of response from you, right? So that's just something to understand. That's just female nature. A lot of guys these days, a lot of them are either simps or pimps, right? Either they're pandering to women to be feminine dominant themselves, or they're feminine and submissive, not understanding that, or they're masculine submissive, right? And some of them are feminine submissive, but they try to do this stuff with women who it won't work with, right? Being feminine submissive only works with a masculine dominant, right? Because the other routes, if it's a masculine submissive, you're not going to be sexually satisfied, and they're not going to be dominant enough for you to take advantage of how receptive you are to domination, because you desire it. They're not going to stretch you enough. And then if they're feminine dominant, then they're going to waste your time and take advantage of the fact that you're feminine and submissive. And then you're going to have to get masculine and logical to combat the fact that they don't have leadership skills. So, being feminine and submissive isn't something that really works with somebody who, unless they're masculine and dominant, which means that they're a leader. So they're dominant, they're assertive, they're masculine, they know what they want, they say what they want, but they're also taking a perspective where they're allowing you to be in your feminine energy, but they also allow you to be submissive, and they take control and they give you pleasure in exchange for the control that you give them. See, pleasure is often exchanged for power. So the primary receiver of pleasure is often going to be the person who is in the submissive position, because as they experience pleasure, they're losing their logical faculties. And as they're experiencing that high level of pleasure, they're being dominated, they're losing their logical faculties, because your brain shuts off, your frontal lobe shuts off when you have an orgasm. So if you're the primary receiver of pleasure, you can be in a heightened state of arousal. Like I have a song, Gents and Gigolos, where I said, thirst, the liminal space of consciousness we've been dreaming of, like drinking cups like steaming bud, opened up to suggestion. No question, I keep it buck. That's one of those things to where when you are highly aroused, you're in a state of mind that's very open to suggestion, just like if you're smoking weed or if you're drinking alcohol. It's probably even more powerful at times than that. So, you have to be able to trust somebody to be in that state of mind around them, or desire them so much that trust isn't necessary. But, that's how it can work. It's the halo effect. And one aspect of the Delilah complex is not even a purposeful thing. A lot of it isn't purposeful. A lot of it is just this fear of being feminine and submissive that is prevalent within society. When a woman is unsure, sometimes she's unsure of the man, but sometimes she's just unsure of herself. And sometimes a woman is in a position where she just has certain expectations about the way she thinks things should be. And she'll bring those things up, trying to find a way to denigrate your masculinity or your dominance. But she'll do that in a way to where she really thinks that she just, she deserves to be on the next level with you. I remember there's this one woman I was dealing with, and she ended up being pretty damn feminine and submissive with me. But what was going on was that, we started talking. She's talking about, I'm gonna mark you as mine, and talking about how I'm gonna make you my boyfriend and all this different kind of stuff. And I'm like, hold your horses. Like, we just started fucking with each other. That's not what we on yet. We're not on that. You're getting ahead of yourself. But there would be times and occasions throughout us communicating with one another where she would text me asking me some deep ass, philosophical, vulnerable ass question, trying to get me to show my vulnerability to her. And I would just slide past it, right? And that's where a lot of goofy questions come from a woman. Like when a woman is on a high enough level of just really getting to that point where she don't want to fuck with you, then she gonna do something disrespectful or do something along those lines. Sometimes a woman will fuck another dude out of the Delilah effect, right? Like if a woman knows that, well, I don't know, maybe you don't like getting cheated on or something like that, it ain't gotta be cheating, but she might just try to fuck another guy just to see where you at. Sometimes what a woman will do is, she'll just play with fire. Sometimes that'll be the Delilah effect. Sometimes it'll, like, let's say a woman knows what your situation is, and she'll just, she'll put herself in the vicinity of certain things that can go left, just trying to see if she can get a rise out of you, right? Another part of the Delilah effect is a woman may try to do something to make you jealous to see if you have an emotional reaction. Another part of the Delilah effect is, like this particular woman I was talking about just now, she would ask me those questions. So there's been times she's like, well, what's your deepest fear? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe like chest bursters from Alien or something like that. And then she's like, and then like a week later, she's like, well, what's your deepest fear in a relationship? And I'm like, okay, Delilah. And I just sent her a picture of Delilah from the Bible, because I wasn't about to play with her fucking ass. I remember one time when we first started talking, before I started hitting that shit, she was, I asked her when she was going to be free. Now, keep in mind, this conversation was sexual from the jump. And, I think I met her on like Facebook dating or something. And we were having a conversation. I asked her, all right, when you free? So we link up. So I caught her hand in the cookie jar, got her talking some nasty shit, but I wasn't fazed by her. And she got her ego. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, you show and prove. Now, you got to show me. I got to see it to believe it. And see, a lot of people think that talking shit as a man is something that just indicates that you're not about what you talk about. That's not true. That's not true. Now, there's a lot of dudes who lie, but sometimes when you masculine and dominant, talking shit is just riling up a woman to get in her ego to try to prove you wrong. And sometimes doing things that particular way can arise out of a woman, her feminine dominance, right? Because you're triggering her ego. But another thing that can happen is this. I asked her, when you free? And she said, before I answer that question, how do you feel about a woman with kids? And what I told her was this. I told her simply. I said, that means that you either fertile, don't know how to listen when a dude say get up, or you just got some good pussy. And it also means that you ain't got time to play games, and neither do I. She called, from that moment on, she called me Mr. Bold, and I was fucking with her. So one thing you just got to understand about the Delilah effect is that's just something that can happen. All right, that's just something that can happen. And I've also had situations with women to where they'll try to stop fucking with me, right? Or I hit them up trying to link up. They'll be like, oh, I can't do it anymore, or we can't have sex anymore. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Okay. And then I'll leave it alone. See, a woman is okay with the idea of not having sex with you sometimes, but she's not okay with you being okay with the idea of it. And sometimes she'll just do that because you've shown too much emotional intimacy, or too much of something that showed that you valued her outside of sex. And that's something that can go wrong. I remember one time I was dealing with this one woman. This is a different woman. These are different women I'm talking about. There's this one woman I was dealing with, and me and her, we were cool for years. For years we were cool, right? And she always tell me about how none of her boyfriends ever bought her flowers, and no dude ever bought her flowers. So one time we went on Anonymous, right? This thing that was going on Facebook. And when we were on Anonymous on Facebook, I saw this thing where she had hers up there. So I said, if I suck on that pussy, will it get you wet? And when I said that, I put it in quotations and said Kirk Franklin, because Kirk Franklin looked like Plies. Then she screenshotted, sent it to me, said, was this you? And I said, yeah. She's like, well, I thought I was going to get one of the sweet ones like other people get. So that was a test right there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do you one better than that. See, this before I knew better. So I sent her a little money so she can go get herself some flowers. She done spent money on me before, so I wasn't tripping off that. It was already cool. She told me after she got the flowers, she cried because she ain't never had flowers before. But the very next time I hit her up to fuck, she was like, oh, we can't do it anymore. So I said, okay, cool. Next 2 days, she would hit me up trying to send some some sexual shit, you know what I mean, trying to arise a reaction from me, right? So that she could feel like I still wanted it. Because sometimes a woman will get to a place where once she starts feeling emotional about you, she doesn't want to be in a position to where she's still having sex with you if she knows you're dominant, because that'll put her in a position where she's going to be feminine and submissive with you. And if a woman doesn't know that you want to be with her, or if she doesn't feel like it's a clear path towards a relationship, then that will make her feel very unsafe. So in that particular situation, she said that. I said, okay, cool. Then, next day she sent me like this video of some girl twerking, and then as it started zooming in, dude hit a Bible on the screen. I ain't even respond to it. She sent me something else along those lines. I ain't respond to it. I just looked at it, right? But then for the next 2 weekends straight, she hit me up seeing if I was going to be in town so we could have sex or whatever it was. And I said, no, I ain't in town, because you got to schedule your dick appointments like everybody else, right? Like everybody else, you got to schedule your dick appointments. So, next week coming up after that, maybe like 2-3 weeks later, that weekend came around, she hit me up when I was in town. So I charged her some money to give her a ride somewhere, and I still beat that pussy down. So it's just like, you got to understand how the Delilah effect works. Once you understand this, you're not going to get overly caught up in these ideas of what it means to be in a healthy relationship, because a lot of this shit is toxic. A lot of these modern day mindsets about what a healthy relationship is, it's just coddling psychological reactants and trying to put people in a relationship where they think they're equals when they're not. Most of the time, these healthy relationship things are about a woman being the lead, or about a woman allowing a feminine man to lead, or a submissive man to lead, as far as him taking the initiative to pursue her, and then them sharing their emotions with one another. And sometimes that works, but most of the time it's a situation where if a woman is attracted to strength and she sees too much soft shit from a man, she's going to lose interest, right? She's going to lose interest. So what you got to understand with these different aspects of these dynamics, like with the Delilah effect, is that it's just a woman who is trying to get what she wants so that she can get up out of there. I've had instances where maybe a woman was like tripping on me. Maybe she wanted a relationship. We were fucking with each other for a while. And I'm like, girl, you're not ready for no relationship, right? If I'm being masculine and dominant, which I am, you're not going to, I'm not going to put you in a position you're not prepared for. But if you think you're so damn prepared for it, all right, cool, let's do it. But we got to do it my way. Oh, no. I'm not really ready for a relationship yet. All right, that's what I thought. I know you wasn't ready. So just get back to doing what the fuck we doing. Cool. Yes, sir. All right, cool. So, sometimes things can work like that. Sometimes a woman will try to jump the gun for a desire for emotional validation or to see a man's vulnerability. But the more she pours out from a place of masculine submissiveness or feminine dominance, the more she fears losing control, the more she fears different things that may happen, right? Especially if she has a gentleman gigolo complex. So, like, if a woman has a gentleman gigolo complex, if she's masculine submissive, then she's going to not be receptive to dominance as much, because her femininity is in putting her in a position where she can handle that. But if she's emotional about you, she's going to take a more so of a feminine dominant role, so that she can, like, if you're being masculine submissive, then she can take a feminine dominant role, the controlling the sex, being the primary giver of pleasure, but doing it from a standpoint of, being emotional and having feelings for you, because in that place, at least, she still has some type of control. But oftentimes, a woman may fear being truly feminine and submissive with a man. She wants to either be cooperative, or she wants to try to play that game of trying to see a man as a challenge. So you got to understand that that's how a lot of these different things work, when we're talking about the Delilah effect. So the Delilah effect works in a variety of ways. Just like we go back to Samson in the Bible. Samson was, in that position where, he just was in a low moment. He went through sexual disintegration, and, he was just going through some shit. He finally opened up to her, because when she was giving him pleasure. She took a feminine dominant stance. And when she finally got to the point where, well, either it was feminine dominant or it could have been masculine submissive, right? Because sometimes you want to see a man in a certain position. So she finally got to see what it was that actually was his weakness. And she was so unsure and so distrusting that she really just wanted to see if he was being honest with her for her emotional needs, for emotional validation. She just wanted to see, is this really what his weakness is? And she found out when what his weakness was really worked. And now, then the dude got his hair cut off, got his eyes gouged out, and became a slave. That's something that will happen to you as a man when you're a pleasure seeker. There's a difference between liking sex and being a pleasure seeker. When you're a pleasure seeker, eventually that pleasure will catch up to you, and then you'll become submissive to the pleasure that you're experiencing, and you'll become a slave to it. And once you become a slave to the pleasure that you're experiencing, that's when you get to the place where a woman will use that submissiveness, or she'll use that femininity, that emotional aspect of how you're behaving, to disqualify you from being a leader. And then sometimes a woman will use it, like especially if she's feminine dominant, she'll be trying to use that challenge to try to defeat you, right? So for a man may say, oh, I smashed that, I hit that, that was a kill, that's my old work, right? A woman will feel that way about a man's emotions, right? Just like I said, the Delilah effect is oftentimes a woman trying to get to the place where she can hit and quit a man's emotions. But the way you combat the Delilah effect is like this. You set your standards about how a woman needs to interact with you, the energy that she needs to have, right? You vet that woman over time. And when she meets those standards, the way that they need to be met, she campaigns for that position. Then she'll be in a place where, and also what I will say is this, she has to be a certain level of feminine and submissive with you first, right? I never allow a woman to put you in a more submissive position sexually than she is open to being with you. Like, there are some women out there who have never had like a vaginal orgasm from penetration, yet they're open and willing to do butt stuff with their man, right? And I'm gonna say something out the box people probably wouldn't expect me to say. While I haven't engaged in like that anal type of shit like that, I'm not somebody who's against it. My thing is this: you need to be on a certain level of sexual attraction with a woman to do that without her losing respect for you. Because you have to dominate her beyond the level of submissiveness that you're going to give to her. So if a woman's not having, penetrative orgasms, why would you allow her to give you one? A lot of that comes from a lack of sexual discipline. A lot of it comes from just starting to say, well, fuck it. If you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that can put you into a spot where, where a woman may lose respect for you, or she might start feeling more dominant. She gets caught up into her dominant sexual ego, and then she gets overstimulated on the idea of having power over a man, right? And that's something that can happen a lot of the times. So, when we're just looking at this whole idea of the Delilah effect, we just need to understand that, one is you have to be able to have that good dick. The other thing is to have that guidance, have emotional discipline, not allow a woman to have a certain level of control or power over you, but also to vet a woman, to take your time, to not rush things, and to put her in a position where she has to show and prove, right? And if she's not willing to do that consistently, she's inconsistent, which is a sign of being feminine dominant. If she's inconsistent, then what can happen over time is that she will lose motivation because things aren't working well in her favor. Now, if she's feminine and submissive, all that time that she's spending with you is going to be time that she enjoys, even without a relationship, even without necessarily going on dates. Just having sex with you, spend a little time talking with you, hanging out. Those are going to be things that turn her on, right? Those are going to be things that she enjoys on an intrinsic enough level to where she doesn't need those other things. Those other things can add to it, but that's not even really on her radar or on her schedule. She's just enjoying it. And if the opportunity presents itself, she'll take it. But she understands that you have standards. And if she's not at the place of meeting those standards, she's not going to try to push for that next level, because she understands that as a masculine dominant man, you're not going to put her in a position that she's not prepared to handle, right? So, there's different things that come with this. So, this is just Brody talking about the Delilah effect. I'm out.